Good afternoon. Welcome to Thomas Jefferson's House, Monticello. I'll be your tour guide for this afternoon. If at the end you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. Thomas Jefferson was born on April 13th, 1743, in his father's agricultural plantation in Abilene County, Virginia. He went to school when he was 10 years old, and he learned Latin, Greek, French, Italian, Spanish, and English, as well as reading, grammar, and math. When Jefferson was 14 years old, his father died, leaving him 5,000 acres and many slaves. Thomas Jefferson's parents believed that education was the key to success, and Thomas Jefferson agreed. Thomas Jefferson spent plenty of time on his studies and work habits throughout his whole life. When Jefferson was 17 years old, he went to the College of William Mary. He graduated in 1762 with the highest honors a graduate could get. In the same year, he went to study law with one of his friends, George Wythe, and was admitted to the bar in 1767. This is a portrait of Thomas Jefferson, made 8 years after he died. This shows the fact that he aged very quickly and looked like an old man throughout his whole life. Thomas Jefferson was married in 1772 to Martha Skelton. They had 6 children together. Martha died in 1782. Jefferson was a representative of the Virginia House of Burgesses in 1774. He wrote his first published book, A Summary View of the Rights of the British America, in that 1774. And that was the first published thing he ever wrote. He served 2 terms in the Continental Congress, as well as the Virginia House of Burgesses. In 1776, he was appointed to a 5-man committee to draft a Declaration of Independence from Great Britain. It took him 17 days to write a draft in this house, which was in Philadelphia. The committee presented the draft to Congress on June 28, 1776, and Congress made several changes. The biggest change that they made was on a paragraph about slave trade, which could have prevented the Civil War. Thomas Jefferson served as governor for Virginia from 1779 to 1781. It was a major disaster. The British almost captured him and his friend Patrick Henry in 1780 when they invaded Virginia during the American Revolution. In 1785 through 1789, he was Minister to France and took over the spot of Benjamin Franklin. He saw the beginning of the French Revolution, but doubted that the French could make a democracy like that of the United States, and suggested that they make a constitutional monarchy such as Great Britain had made. In 1789 through 1793, he was Secretary of State and spent those years fighting with the Federalists with his friend James Monroe. He retired to Monticello in 1793 for 3 years. 1796, he was a presidential candidate in that election, and he lost to his best friend, John Adams. He became vice president under him. Throughout those years, he concentrated on the Democratic-Republican Party and strengthening its roots throughout the country. In 1800, he went for president again and made it. He slashed the Army and Navy expenses, cut budgets, but still reduced the national debt. In 1803, he purchased Louisiana Territory from Napoleon III of France in the Louisiana Purchase Treaty. That was his most notable contribution to the United States as of this day. In the second term of his presidency, he was more concentrated on foreign affairs, and it failed miserably. The embargo ace of 1807 prohibited all imports and exports from the United States. This made many people mad, and he was not very popular. This also triggered the rebirth of the Federalist Party, and the Democratic Republican Party almost fell apart. For the last 17 years of his life, he sold his library and founded the Virginia University. He secured the location, designed the buildings, planned the curriculum, and hired the staff. On July 4th, 1826, 5 hours before his long-term friend John Adams, he died on the 15th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. He was 83 years old and had large debts. But his tombstone presented the three things that he most liked about his life. It reads, "Here was buried Thomas Jefferson, author of the Declaration of Independence, of American independence, of the Statute of Virginia for religious freedom, and the father of the University of Virginia." His memorial, Thomas Jefferson Memorial in Washington, D.C., has two excerpts from the Declaration of Independence and from quotes. This shows that the United States owes quite a lot to Thomas Jefferson. Are there any questions now?
I have a question. What was Thomas Jefferson most famous for?
Surprisingly, Thomas Jefferson was most famous for the purchase of the Louisiana Territory. I would think, and I believe most people would, that writing the Declaration of Independence was most important or most famous. But the Louisiana Purchase doubled the size of the United States in one day, and the Lewis and Clark expedition helped complete westward expansion.
How old was Thomas Jefferson when he wrote the Declaration of Independence?
He was 33 years old, which is fairly young for someone to be as smart as he was and as involved in the country's history as he was.
What did Thomas Jefferson think was his greatest accomplishment?
He thought that founding the University of Virginia and the Declaration of Independence was his most proud accomplishment, as it says on his tombstone. But most people would think that he would be most proud of the Louisiana Treaty, as well as other things that he did in his presidency. Thomas Jefferson thought that things he gave to the people, not things he did for the people, were the most important things.
And one final question. You have a violin on the table. What's the reason for that?
Thomas Jefferson was a very, very accomplished violinist, as well as musician, architect, and just a remarkable person. He knew 6 languages quite well and was interested in things throughout society. This concludes the tour. I want to thank you all for attending the Monticello tours in his house. I would encourage all of you to take a stroll outside. It's a very beautiful day. You can visit the plantation grounds as well as the gardens. He kept up with the gardens. He was a very avid gardener and took care of them very well. The maintenance crew takes care of the gardens just like Thomas Jefferson would have back in the 1700s. You can also take a walk on the pathway out west towards the far west end of the grounds and visit the Jefferson Cemetery, where Thomas Jefferson's grave is located, as well as many of his descendants. Thank you for attending this afternoon, and enjoy the rest of your day.